I'm still trying to figure this out. Sorry guys, I realized I didn't upload the homework. I thought I did, but then it didn't, so I re-uploaded today.
Oh no, yeah. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, we're all just figuring stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, man, this is really not intuitive. Okay, so this is week two. Okay, saving. I'm
Yeah,
just grabbing the
I know.
homework right
Yeah,
now.
Flow is really difficult to use. Yeah, it's so confusing.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. Why did they make it?
Yeah, or if you want, like, you could email Jasmine everything that you want to upload, and then she could do it for you. Um,
Mhm. Is this it? And move this over. Okay, I guess that's it. Um, yeah, it's because hold on. Okay, then share. So you guys can see my screen.
not yet.
Yeah. Okay. No.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I mean, it's in English, so I thought, okay, well, shouldn't be that hard. And then the Chinese websites are easier.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, okay. And so I guess I can't do big batch uploads. Wait, is this week two? Okay, this is week two. Okay.
We're actually in week 3, but I think week 2 is week two's homework, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. It's just yeah, this is week three. We go over likeness today, but I was hoping I thought it was going to be like Blogger, where you can just you just
Yeah.
grab the image.
Well, yeah, cause like at the moment, the thing is, since we all haven't gotten feedback anyway, we could all, like, not all, but like we could just you could just email it to Jasmine, and she could kind of help you out tomorrow or something, because it's not like, I guess, we could fix anything tonight.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll go. We'll start with the homework crit, and then let's see. I'm still grabbing homework. I thought it'd be easier if we could grab a batch. But yeah, I left a link on there. Oh, let me show you. Um, so let me go here, and then I have to go to believe it's this, and then
So if you guys know, let me know, because I
did
don't
I
use
skip
Flow
it?
too
Oh, I
often.
must have skipped
Yeah.
it. Okay, here. And then there should be the demo from last week. And the link is here.
Okay, awesome.
So it has all, should be able to, okay, cool. So it has, I guess Thursdays and Wednesdays demos are on the same page. They have the same link. Uh,
No,
okay, cool. So I'm still grabbing.
if we click that link, they'll be able to access the feedback or the notes.
Yeah, the homework is all on there. Because I thought I could upload all, like do a batch upload, but it wouldn't do it that way. So I saved it all as a zip file. So it'll just, all the homework crits are on there.
Oh, nice.
So there
Yeah,
should be
that's
there's one Wednesday and then there's one Thursday. So it should be it'll take you to WeTransfer and then you can just download it there.
sweet. Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you.
So I guess that's how I have to do
Huh?
it. I don't think it allows for, I don't think Flow does batch uploads where you can just upload a ton at a time. I think I have to do it one at a time. I mean, is there a way to do a batch upload?
Yeah. So did you ask something just then?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's a way to do a batch upload where you can just upload a ton of stuff at once. Because before I'm just uploading things one at a time.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I could check for you tomorrow though. I'm not too sure at the moment. And Jasmine's out at the
Uh,
moment.
yeah, no worries. All right, well, we'll start with the homework crit, and then I guess I'll have to do it the same way again, or I'll just critique the other ones. I'll do a longer crit, and then I'll critique the ones I don't get to offline, and then I wrote stuff like, and if I missed yours, please let me know. Like if you look through the list, let me know next week, so I'll make sure to. Yeah, there's a lot of. Anyway, just let me know, and I'll make sure to get homework.
Also, so for tomorrow, I could talk to Jasmine to ask what's the easiest way for you to do that, and yeah, and she can talk you through it. And yeah, because I'm not too sure what's the best way of doing the create.
Yeah, the critiques. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's easier. Like usually, like Kazone, they just give me a batch, so I can just download one batch, and then it's like all the homework, so I don't have to, just it's just one download, and then maybe like one or two students who handed in late, like like it's very easy, it's just one or two. The our school and the publisher, once again, they just give me a batch. Like there's a time, and then they'll just send me go here, and then it's just like it's just one zip file, and it has like 15, 16, whatever number of homework it's done, and then that's it. It's just one download.
Or maybe we could set up like a Google Drive, so we could still use Flow for like class submissions, but then like if we want feedback, we would upload it to the drive, and then that way you could just click on that Google Drive and you have access to everyone's work.
Yeah, that would be great. That'll be I can access the homework threads. It's just I have to do it one at a time. And I don't know, it loads really slow.
Yeah, cause like it loads all the previous weeks as well. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
So yeah, I think I've been downloading homework for about 10 minutes now.
maybe you could start on the demo. I'll see if I can set up like a Google Drive, and then I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll send the link on Collaborate, and then everyone can upload their homework there.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Thanks, man. Thanks, Duncan.
Cool.
This is classes. All right, so let me grab the Wednesday, week 2 homework. So I'll go over these, and then I'll go over we'll get to the demo. But yeah, so this is the homework for this week. Just close all these. Just finished the IDW stuff this morning. I sent it out. Cool. So how'd you guys feel about the homework this week? I think I read the wrong section. It was Thursday's class. There was some homework there. Was it easy? Is it hard? Are you getting a little bit more used to this? Okay.
Everyone here familiar with Google Drive?
Yeah. Are you guys getting a little bit more comfortable with at least the proportions, the error proportion? Or just counting? All right, cool. Yeah, because this week, I think one of the things that happened during the live stream for China, I was getting a lot of, quick sketches like this. And then one of the assignments I gave the class was I wanted them to finish the drawing. This is like a quick sketch, and I said, yeah, now, okay, fine, to prove a point, finish the drawing. And, they weren't able to finish it, so that was the thing. So just Remember, I know this is a little bit slow, but just take your time because I feel like when we sketch, the more, because a lot of the sketching is for ourselves, so that we can figure things out. If your sketch leaves a lot of questions than answers, because we should be taking notes, then that's technically a bad sketch. Does that make sense? I forget. I can never say his name right. Karl Kaplinski. That guy, he draws really loose, but whatever he draws, at least for him, he knows what every like everything he draws, he knows what every line means. So for him, it's good notes. So it's like it's easy. But there's lots of sketches where, even me, when I look at a sketch, I can figure out, okay, well, this is this, the rib cage is like this, the pelvis is like this, the legs are placed here. I can figure all that stuff out. But when it's too loose and there's just, it's not even a complete shape, then it's just more work for me or for the next person working on it. So I don't know, I always thought technically that's not a good sketch. So even like this, I can figure it out. I can look at it and go, okay, well, even if the reference is not there, I can figure out what's going on. So it has enough information. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, so let's start with this one. Oops. Unlock this. It's pretty good overall. I think the body is looking fine. Just need to start focusing on our center line and our overlaps. I know we went through stretch and pinch and all that, but do one thing at a time. So here, let's lighten up the drawing. Good, you got a nice side view. And one thing to be careful of is, if you look at G, his face here, we can see the other side of his eyes. So which tells me this is not a perfect side view. So always check when you get a side view to make sure that it is like a proper side view. So we can treat everything the same.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks. Yeah, I missed that.
So remember, I think I mentioned it last week, but it's like people are a little bit, we're inherently a little bit lazy. No one's like has perfect posture. At least, most people don't sit or stand that way all the time. We always have like a slight tilt. We tend to lean one way or the other. So when we get a perfect side view, it's always a good idea to double check, especially if you're drawing from a live model. When we draw from a live model, we're usually sitting below them, or we're sitting on a bench. So most likely we'll be seeing the underside of their chin. It's always just a good idea to double check. So get the top of the head, bottom of the chin, cut that in half. So it's good, you got the head rolling away. Define the front plane, so maybe somewhere here. And we can bring the center line down. There's the chin. We'll probably just treat this like a side view, like a perfect side view, just to drop the jawline. Get the ears. Get that mask shape. So it's just a minor fix for the head. We got the head tilting back. You did good on the gesture, with the neck, the body. Finish off this circle. The bottom of the throat. drop one circle down. When we drop a circle down, we're not dropping this circle, we're dropping the circle from the highest point. They account for the head tilting forward. I think it's in a good spot. Next week, we'll get into the kind of the more fun, actually, no, never mind. They're all fun. The three-dimensional aspect of drawing. So we're gonna just go over the 3D ideas, like what ideas we have to play with to make our drawings go from 2D to 3D. And then we'll start talking about individual parts.
Sweet, sounds good.
Yeah. In terms of the ideas that we have to play with for bringing a drawing into, taking it from the realm of 2D to 3D, there's not a lot. There's many ways of using those ideas, but in terms of how many tools you have, there aren't that many. And the cool thing is, it just depends on how you decide to use those tools. They'll give you a different result. Cool. Let's pay attention to the spine. A center line.
Oh no. Yeah, Brian dropped out for us as well. Oh, while he's not here, does anyone know how to make a Google Drive link where anyone could upload something? You know how to do it? Yeah, can you please help me? Because I got no idea.
Yeah, you just have to change the conditions
Okay.
when you make the share link.
Okay.
So, what do you do?
So I've got this.
Stable.
Drop down.
Hear me?
1 second. Yep. Yep, Brian, I can see you. You're back.
Very cool. I think we should start just, if we can, just meet on Zoom. It's a lot more stable.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk to Jasmine about it tomorrow.
Yeah, on Zoom, there's like, it's very rare we get cut off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so I said we draw the center line and then we measure down the center line. The reason why we go down the center line is because the center line has the least amount of distortion when it comes to perspective. We can draw our bow tie shape. So this is nice because we get a nice pinch here and a nice stretch here. Always remember the did it disappear again? No? Okay, cool.
No, you're still there.
Okay, the first shape that you draw is never like 100% accurate. I mean, you might have those days where you're just on fire or you're just on that day. But most of the time, it's just like, it just takes, drawing is usually done in passes. So don't worry about getting it in one shot.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I think I think it's just I'm not very good at doing side. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean it's flattering that it looks like it's in one shot. I did do more than one shot, like but I couldn't get it right, so it was just difficult. I don't know how to do it. Yeah.
No, it's all right. You just, because the thing is, you need something on the page to look at. So that you can that's one thing that made me feel a lot better, because watching someone like Mark draw, because he doesn't erase, so you're like, oh, okay, well, I don't know how to draw like that. But the thing that he said was, well, if it's wrong, just fix it. And you can't know if it's, it's off until you put something down. That make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks. And I was wondering, like, how do you do the rib cage when it's on the side? Because I find it difficult to visualize what it looks like underneath the skin or underneath the muscles and stuff.
It's just the same thing. Like a side view, it just looks like an egg. So if you get it, but this is not a perfect side view.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is you want to find the front plane or the front angle of that rib cage. So you're going to treat it exactly the same. You're going to draw the egg shape. Or that fish shape. And we'll find the angle of the hips, which is going to be, the tail of the fish. We find our center line. Whatever angle this is in, it's going to be the 10th rib. That's also the angle of the sternum. You can figure out which way the pelvis is facing. So in this case, he's lifting his leg about 90 degrees. So, the pelvis is probably going to, the angle of the pelvis will flatten out. And I am seeing a lot more of the side. So it's telling me there's a twist. So when I get down to the pelvis, I got to make changes. I'm seeing more the side of the pelvis like this. So if I treat this like a box. Oh, awesome.
Okay, and to everyone, I've just gotten the link. Yeah, sorry, it took me a while because I was trying to figure out how to do it. Yeah, and someone helped me. That's some student. Thank you. And yeah, so yeah, so just put the homework there, and Brian should be able to see everything in one shot. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for the feedback, Brian. This is really good. Like.
Oh, no problem. So yeah, so I'll just upload the homework there as well after we do all the homework crits.
Yes, please. Yeah. You submit first with homework because I haven't done this.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you just make a note of it on your homework, just so I know?
11.
So this first part that we keep working on is really important because today when we start going into likeness, well, you'll see why. The thing is, if we get our shape correct, even if you don't know any anatomy, understanding shape, those simple tools that we have, and especially next week when you start going over the tools for creating form, we should be able to draw a believable figure even without anatomy or like 100% accurate anatomy. Because at the end of the day, we are just creating, what's it called? We are faking three-dimensionality on a 2D surface. So it's like we're doing a magic trick. So, a doctor knows real anatomy, right? And we can know it too, but the thing is, like, a magician doesn't really saw somebody in half. It's they create the illusion that somebody got sawed in half. So that's kind of what we do. So while knowing your anatomy is important, it's not going to be the thing that makes or breaks your drawing. It's going to be like the tools that we have at our disposal about how we use. It's going to depend on how we use that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That will lead to us. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. Let's go to the next one.
Thanks.
To make it easier, should make it easier to share the other references. Okay. This one. Okay. So when you draw your center line, make sure you connect them all the way through. Because it doesn't matter what you're drawing, knowing that center line, like how everything connects, can give us a lot of information. Remember, the center line can tell us which direction a shape is facing. It can help connect things, you know, like the neck to the rib cage. It can also start giving us some information about that, the surface of a form. And in a way, it can also give us perspective because already the center line is saying, hey, we're beneath this thing. So make sure you connect all of your center lines. So here, I'm going to say maybe this is a 3/4 view, looking to the right. We start with our circle, use a different color. If you guys ever draw anything that's like a mech or something that requires a little bit more understanding the surface, that center line is going to be like just so important for you, especially if you need, like you're drawing a mech and you need to connect everything. So focus on that head.
Also, this is just a note for all the students. So make sure you guys are still uploading on Flow. Don't just upload it on the Google Drive because I think for the uni course, Simon would go through Flow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a 3/4 head. I'm just doing this a little bit fast so we can get to some more homework. And remember, when you draw hands, or when you get to the gesture of the hands, what we're really drawing is a tapering noodle. And what that tapered noodle represents is you're drawing your index finger, your middle finger, and your ring finger. On average, our wrist and these 3 fingers, they tend to be about the same width, and then we just add on the thumb and the pinky.
So could you show us again? Because I just maximized the screen, but I missed the last bit. You were showing your hand, and yeah, could you show us that again? Yeah.
So when you draw the hand and when you draw that noodle, we're actually drawing the hand like this. And then, so we can get the full gesture, and then we add on the thumb and the pinky, because generally, the average width tends to be about the index finger, the middle finger, and the ring finger. Yeah, okay. 4 fingers, because, and it's also easier to draw, you know, this, you know. Actually, no, I'm not 100% sure why, but I do know it's because it is easier to draw 4 fingers than it is to draw 5. I don't know if you guys know this, but it's just kind of interesting. Do you guys know Bob the Builder? Do they have him in?
Yeah, we got Bob the Builder.
Yeah, they had some. I don't know how they resolved it, but they didn't want him in Japan. You know, it's for a joke.
Why?
Because he has 4 fingers, and the people in Japan, yeah, that have 4 fingers is the Yakuza thing. So it's like, oh, is he a member of Yakuza or something? I don't know how. I don't remember how they resolved it, but I thought that was interesting. That means, you know, like Mickey and they all have 4 fingers. Yeah, it'd be cool. It's a dark origin story of Bob the Builder. He was originally a gangster. But yeah, so that's basically it. Like when we draw the hands, because what's it called? We want to have a good gesture all the way through. And I learned this from a lot of the animation teachers. So let's say somebody is has their hand up like this, or you're drawing a dancer. We don't want to just stop the hand and then draw the hand like this. What you want to do is Danny used to say that the hand is like the end of a sentence. So let's say you have the hands like maybe the person is doing a graceful move and their fingers are moving up. Then the gesture of the whole hand would go like this, and then we can add on after the thumb. And we can add on the pinky. Yeah. Well, the thing is, when we start separating the fingers, I mean, just pretend we're just drawing the overall noodle, and then when you need to make the separation, you're just cutting the noodle and then just separating out the fingers. And we will go over simple tricks to drawing hands, because hands are actually not as difficult as you think. I think it's because there's 5 things on it, 5 digits. It looks like they move independently. They actually don't. They actually move together. So it looks really hard, but in actuality, it's really simple, and it's even more simple using the cartoon, like a more animator method of drawing hands. So the opposite is if the hands are facing down. We can add the thumb, whatever the thumbs are doing. So let's say on this one, the thumb is just facing down like this. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. If you guys want to just to independently kind of study the hands even before that class, like go over hands, you can look up an artist named Milt Kahl. He's a Disney animator. And if you want to see, really good simplifications of the hand, well, he was an animator on it. You can watch the movie Sword in the Stone. Sword in. Yeah. I think he has probably the most easiest ways of simplifying hands. Like he has like if you watch it. So, I mean, there's drawings that he's done, but you can just watch you can just watch the cartoon and pause it and just do some master copies. I mean, I did that. That taught me more about drawing hands than looking at Burn Hogarth's book.
Sweet. I'm gonna study up.
Yeah, like I said, if you guys want to know how to draw hands, I'd probably look. If you want to know how to simplify and paint hands, I would look obviously at painters. But in terms of learning how to draw simple hands and then making sure they look right, I would look at old Disney movies and their old animators, because I feel like the stuff you can learn from Burn Hogarth, you can apply it to this stuff. Like I don't know, it makes the hand look a lot more natural. Because Burn Hogarth, all of his hands, like, it's called dynamic hands, but it looks like here's my hand relaxed, right? It was watching the camera. All of Burn Hogarth's hands are like they're like flexed hands. Even like a hand like this, this is a relaxed hand. It's like, ah.
Yeah, I remember seeing those. Yeah, they're all very tense.
Yeah. So yeah, I think looking at animation hands is really cool, because you get to see like a hand that gets tense like this versus when it's loose. You can see different treatment of shape, and if you look at especially like Milt Kahl and Ollie Johnston and those guys, their hands, you start to learn very quickly that it's not a anatomy and everything of the hand that makes it look nice. It's actually the shape and how you design the fingers, or the relationships of the fingers and everything need to look nice. You can always go in and add knuckles and stuff like that, or the secondary details. Same as it's exactly the same as drawing the figure. So drop one circle down, the pit of the neck. Like I said, don't skip steps. Just do it one at a time. Right now, if you guys are just starting out drawing figures, or if you're doing it a little bit more now, you can think of it like a video game or MMORPG. When you play a game like that, you can't just level up everything at once, right? In the beginning, they might give you a certain level of stats. Like if you have, I don't know, they give you like 60 points, or I don't know, whatever it is, and you can put it towards speed, your strength, your agility, you can do all of that. But there's a cap, and after that, you have to play the game to, earn your experience so you can improve upon them, right? Yeah, it is a grinding process. That's kind of how it works. Like when we start leveling up, it's like this. In the beginning, you all have your own experiences drawing the figure, and that's your cap right now. That's where you're starting. You're, wherever you are, that's where you're starting. And then what's going to happen is, so we have gesture, shape, and proportion. Like that's your leveling right now. So we can't level them all up at once. What ends up happening is one needs to have more importance than the other, especially when we're studying, because it's like, you have 5 minutes. I want you to focus on gesture, shape, proportion, lighting, muscles, form. That's just too much. That's a lot to juggle. So what we do is we work on maybe our gesture for a while, so our gesture starts to level up. And then what happens is, hey, we're getting really comfortable with gesture, but I know our proportions are kind of weak. So what we do is we just kind of stop. We hang out there, and then we raise up our proportion levels. And then we go back and we raise up our shape levels. And eventually what happens is when we get to a certain level, you're pretty good already. And so you're able to juggle more things at once. So you're getting more points. So you're starting to think, you know what? I can work on gesture and shape at the same time because my gestures are already good. Oh, I don't really worry about my proportions anymore. So now I can maybe think about gesture, shape, and proportion at once. And you realize, oh, I want better form design. So it's like, okay, well, my shape is good. My gestures are good. My proportion is in a good place. Okay, so I can do 4 things at once now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does to me. Oh no, did he freeze again? Shit. No. Yeah, I'll let Jasmine know tomorrow.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep, you're back.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll let her know tomorrow. I'll let
Really
Jasmine
sorry
know
about
tomorrow.
this.
Yeah, because it's dropping off
Okay.
way too much.
Yeah, on Zoom, it's like maybe once the whole session, or most of the time it's like never.
Yeah, I think it's
Like
because
maybe once every few.
yeah, I think it's because of the uni. Like, for some reason they use Collaborate as the default thing. So I guess like for all the classes, because like they're all either from I don't think any of the lectures are from China or anywhere like that. So they don't have that issue.
Oh, I see.
Also, are you sharing your screen yet, or?
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me share again.
Yep.
Let me know what
Yep,
you can see.
it works
Okay,
now.
cool.
Yep. Thanks.
So basically, going back to what I'll say, it is going to be a constant kind of grinding process. But when you get a certain number of skill points, I guess you can say, it doesn't feel like grinding anymore because usually it's just the hardest in the beginning. You know, like for you to kill, like, I don't know, I'm just thinking about, I don't know which, let's say like Sekiro, right? I know Sekiro is like hard, but after you grind in the beginning and you get used to the game and you get kind of used to everything, when you start going through like the earlier levels and you start seeing those, you know, like the first layer of bad guys, they're actually really easy. It's not a big deal for you anymore. So it kind of gets like that, or you kind of, well, it's just, yeah, you just basically develop more confidence. That's all it is. So right now you guys are in the grinding stage. That's all it is. And you're learning something new, so it's natural. It just makes sense. Every time I learn a new design idea or something, you know, the beginning part, that's where all the grind's going to happen. But the more you know and the more comfortable you are with your basics, you know, at least you're not, the way I see it, at least you're not struggling with that. You know, like if you're designing a character, it's nice when you're not struggling with, I don't know how to draw a hand, or I don't know how to draw a face. You're not struggling with that. That's not the part that's holding you back. It's actually the designing part that might get hard, and that's the part that you can actually just play with. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. So here, once again, just make sure you connect all of your center line. I know I went the opposite way here, but make sure you connect everything. At least the major part, so that, you know, especially the stage 1 and 2, because it makes it easier to connect your legs and everything else. Everything's going to be connecting to, you know, stage 2. Stage 1 is really important because, as I mentioned before, your head is what drives motion. So, you know, like if you turn your, you know, if something interests you, you're not going to turn your body and then your head turns. No, it's going to be your head turns and then your body will follow. The only time that this rule is broken is if there's like an external force, you know, like if someone, you know, hits you in your stomach or, you know, something, then yeah, you're gonna, you know, your body's gonna move and then your head's gonna come down. But naturally, what's gonna happen is we're always gonna move our head first. So the head is really important, and then stage 2 is important because stage 2 is what's gonna follow behind, and then that can dictate what your legs are going to do and what your arms are going to do. And since everything, especially like your arms and your legs, are starting to connect to stage 2, it's really important that we figure out that center line. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. No problem. Just remember this. When you draw, if you have a focus, it makes it easier to judge if you have a successful drawing or not. Like I told you, when we level up one at a time, right? So I mean, that's what I learned from having instructors come up and then say, you know, especially if you're not in their class and they're helping you out, they'll ask you, what are you working on? Because it makes it easier for them, or otherwise they're just going to give you a whole bunch of stuff to work on. But you might need that, but it helps if there's something very specific. So when they sit down, you know, like Dallas would say, what are you working on? And that makes it easier to judge. So for example, here, we have gesture, shape, and proportion. And right now, I feel like proportion should be at the top of the list, just so that, you know, we get used to, you know, just building that internal ruler. And if you did a drawing and our gesture is a little bit off, like it's a little bit stiff, and maybe our shape is not as good as it can be, but the proportions are good, then in a way, you've done a successful drawing, because that was the main goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Did you?
It makes it a lot easier than, okay, well, I'm going to focus on gesture, shape, proportion, and then, you know, there needs to be a hierarchy. And it's going to be the same thing when you guys start designing, because what's going to dictate your design is going to depend on, it depends, right? It's going to depend on the story. It might depend on the function. For example, if you play a video game, and I'm sure you've seen lots of video games where, especially like games like Gears of War, where you're supposed to be sneaky, but then there's crap on your back that lights up, and it kind of doesn't make sense for a character to, you know, like, oh, I'm going to be I'm a stealth-based kind of character, but then there's lots of things on my back that light up, you know, that, you know, you're sitting in the dark, you see lights. But that might be something of a game mechanic where they need, I mean, there are better ways of doing this, but I'm just giving you this as an example. Maybe the lights are there to let the players know that, you know, when the color is green, it means you're exposed. If you're red, it means you're hidden or something like this. So it might be a game mechanic that drives a design. So that's how you can decide, is it a good design or is it or is it not a good design? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not just simply that, oh, my drawing looks cool. It's when it comes to something like a video game, comic, or whatever it is, there has to be, it has to be justified somehow. Like, and usually when it is justified in a functional way, it's usually cool. I mean, like, do you guys know why the first Unreal tournament, like all the guys have giant shoulder pads?
No, I have no idea.
It's a tech issue, because back then they couldn't have people raise their arms like this and look right. So rid of that they just got rid of it by saying, all right, they wear giant shoulder pads. You don't need to worry about them raising their arms.
Right, that makes sense.
There's some projects I've heard of that instructors have worked on where it's like low budget, and every time the character needs to grab a weapon, their hand leaves the screen. They never show you the hand actually grabbing something. It's because the project didn't have enough money, or they don't have it in the budget to have hand animation. So what they do is they just have the arms leave the screen, and then they just switch the hands. Like, that's what they're doing. So,
Right.
you know, I forget.
That's really smart.
I think,
That's
yes,
really smart.
it's a way around it. So, like I said, when it comes to drawing, it's the same thing. We don't think, if you try to level up everything at once, you're going to move at a very, very slow pace. But if you're actually focused and you focus on one or two things, it makes it a lot easier and a lot more manageable. So yeah, you're going to say my drawing doesn't look that good right now, or, you know, I'm struggling, but at least I have, my focus was on gesture. I have everything working, like the gesture looks good. My proportion is off, but that's not what I was focusing on. So in terms of gesture, it's successful. That's a good way to kind of judge your drawings. Otherwise, we just think it sucks all the time. Because, you know, I think, you know, a lot of artists were like the harshest judging.
Yeah.
It sucks.
That's like the story of my life.
Yes, exactly. Small successes. Yeah. Well, that's how it is, right? Because trust me right now, if you look at your drawings, you know, these drawings, and you look at it maybe 10 weeks from now, after you're working at it, you'll look at this and you'll see tons of things wrong. And if you could talk to yourself maybe 10 weeks before, you'd probably be like, oh, I want to be where you're at right now. Like if you saw another artist, let's you 10 weeks, you know, some other person who's like you would be like, I want to be at that level. But then you at 10 weeks, you look at it and you're like, man, this sucks. You know, it's just kind of how it works. It's good as long as you can start seeing your errors and you can start correcting it. The better it is. I mean, the thing that really, you know, a lot of the instructors that I've had that I thought, wow, okay, so it's not all talent. It's just, I forget which instructor told me this. He said, I'm not actually better than you. I've just done more bad drawings than you have, and I've just learned to fix them. So I just encountered more. That's all it really is. So like here, so I think it's fine that your legs are long, but I think the issue here is the head is small. So here, remember always, before we get into stretch and pinch, before we get into all the other stuff, especially when we start getting into form, just make sure stage 1 and 2 look really good. So here, looks like a 3/4 head. If you guys do drawing for homework and you guys see something wrong, I don't mind you just say this is, you drew this and you write first or something and then draw it again. That could be your second figure. You can just redraw the same one.
It's my head game.
It's all right. It goes through. It happens to a lot of people. It happened to me too. First, you draw. It goes 2 ways. One, you draw the head too small, or the other way is you start drawing the head a little bit too big. Yeah. That's another thing. When you guys work when you work on stuff, it's better if you can finish like a day before, or earlier, just so you can have that your eyes refresh and then you can look at it again. Because when we stare at our work too long, we just tend to like not see the mistakes. That's why they do the whole mirror your drawing, or look at it upside down or whatever, just so you can get a different point of view. Or simply, you can just take a break. Like every job I do, I try to finish. Since I'm working remotely, I just try to finish maybe like a day before, so I can have one day to have my eyes refreshed and I don't look at it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Artist Alex Ross does that, or that's what I read in. God, it's like really long time ago. There used to be a magazine called Wizard, and I used to buy those because they had a lot of comic book artists in it.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll check him out.
Yeah, Alex Ross that guy's amazing.
Oops.
All right, so make sure you focus on stage 1, get that head working. I'm gonna draw a little bit faster so we get through 2 more homeworks, and then we'll get into the lecture, and I'll download the homeworks from Google Drive, and I'll work on them tonight. By the way, I have a quick question. I want to make sure for the book. Is it okay if I put some of the class drawings in there, just so I can just show some drawovers? I'll let you guys know whose drawings I'm using.
Yeah. What book is this? Or
Oh, I'm writing a book in China about figure drawing, and then so I'm trying to get it done by October or November. I've been working on it for a couple of years now. It's just but I've been learning new stuff, from teaching, so I've been always kind of updating. That's why it's been taking me so long. So I'm trying to just put a cap on it.
yeah. So you're asking to use the students' homework as like, oh, you're asking
Yeah,
to
so-
use the students' homework as like example of like common areas and stuff like that? Is that what you mean, or?
Yeah, and then I can do a draw over on top.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I mean,
Makes
I
sense.
actually like. I guess it depends on each student. I mean, I'm more than happy to. You could use any of mine. I guess, yeah. Like you probably have to go through a list of like who would say yes or who would say no. I mean, I think yeah. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people in the chat saying yeah. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Thanks, guys. Because it's been tricky with the publisher. For example, like my teacher Mark, he passed away, and I'm sure he'll be okay with it. But the thing is, no one knows who owns his drawings.
Right.
like he didn't have he doesn't have kids, and he doesn't have well, I don't think his wife owns the drawings. No one knows. So unfortunately, we had to just leave it out. And then the other Riley artists, I had to reach out to them, and yeah, I got permission from I think three of them. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's been tricky.
Yeah. I think I don't know. Like we'll have to set up a list somewhere where of people who said yes, or like and then you could kind of yeah use those or something.
Okay, cool. So once again, make sure you spend time on your stage one and stage two. Like if this part's just not working, try just if possible, try not to move on until you resolve it. I know it's gonna suck in the beginning, but yeah, I understand. Like I think for a good 2 months, every teacher, no matter how much I focus, your head's not connected to your rib cage. Oh yeah, the portion looks good, but your head's not connected to your rib cage. That was like the main problem I was having. For looks good, it's not connected to the rib cage. So I made it a kind of a mission to, for a while when I was drawing, I just wouldn't move on until I can prove to myself and draw it and justify it that the head was connected to the rib cage. So just make sure resolve the areas somewhat and then move on. Like basically, you want your Eric to look really nice. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. And I'll show you guys today. Well, we're gonna learn today why it's important to spend time on Eric. For this week, the homework will be the same. Just giving you a heads up. It's 20 figures. You're just gonna be drawing Eric, then modifying Eric to look like the model. But if you're still struggling with Eric, just draw Eric again. Just like here. Like if you drew it once and then you see like, hey, I can fix it, just draw it again. Yeah, we're gonna change the silhouette to start matching the models. Don't worry, I'll do the demo today. It's actually pretty easy. Once we get used to just kind of drawing Eric, because like I said, you're starting to build that internal ruler. So what's gonna happen is the more comfortable you get with that ruler, you're gonna just start automatically when you start looking at someone or at a model, you're gonna immediately start comparing right away. Like, oh, this person is, like Barry, I keep saying this, his face is longer than Eric. So I usually add like a little bit more. When Barry leans his head back, that's when I can use the one radius down. Barry has a wider back than Eric. He has a narrower waist. His neck is longer. So I'm already comparing as I draw. That makes sense?
Yep.
So right now, don't worry too much about back views. Try to stay with the front view for now, because I will go over the scapula in 2 weeks. We'll start going over shoulders. But once again, if we build a good Eric, we have that fish shape, building the scapula and everything, it becomes a lot easier. And here, once again, make sure don't leave areas like this where they're unclear, because if I draw all the way through, I don't know where the pit of the neck is, but let's say it's there. You see how long the neck is, and then also, the neck's really not connected. if I draw all the way through. So it's really important to spend time on here and here. So here, what's going on is he's pretty much, he's not bending too much or whatever, so we can probably just go with having him kind of stand upright a little bit. So start with our circle. So 3/4, so you can use half a radius. He's slightly looking down. The back of the head. You can use that circle to drop the jawline. Find the eye line, it's about half. Ovoids for the ear, just connect the neck. It's a little bit more straight. So since I have the skull shape, it makes it easier for me to draw the neck. So there's a twist. One circle down. Remember, when somebody has their head down, we don't measure this circle. We take this circle and we measure it from the top of the head. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. Otherwise, the neck's going to look really long. So let's put it over.
And so if Barry is tilting up, you still take the back one, right? Because if he's tilting up, that will mean the front the front circle would be wrong as well, right?
Well, if he's looking up, we tend to use, because when we draw front view, what we're doing is we're drawing the front of the face and we're extending to the back of the skull. So if Barry is looking up, or if we have any character looking up, the first circle we draw is going to be the highest point. Right, so if we have a character and then their head is looking up like this.
Right, so we still do take the front circle then.
Yes,
to measure
because
down.
the skull. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so we still take the front circle to measure down to find the pit of the neck, right?
Yes, because here, if you do draw the back of the skull, it goes down. Because remember, we're drawing the front of the face, and we're extending to the back of the skull. So there'll be the neck here, like this. There'll be our hyoid bone. There'll be the ears. So we take this circle, drop it down 1 unit, get the pit of the neck.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, so we want to get that twist in the body. and get the gesture, or just kind of you just call it your ballpark center line. So you're not 100% sure. It just helps you to get the overall length right away. Measure down your units. A lot of your drawing errors that we will make, we'll find out that it's just something really simple that we could have fixed early on in the beginning. I don't know, that's been my experience with all of my drawing errors. It's never been like an error I made really later on. It's just something that I made early on and just didn't address it then. The shoulder. The right shoulder is a little bit higher. Find the average. We already have the average width. Measure again. It's a little bit long. It's the center. We can draw our bow tie shape. We can connect our center line.
Still confused about
the flex straight, but it feels like it depends. Just because like how you draw a curve and how you draw a straight can change the meaning. For example, you know, if I here maybe I can explain it like this in terms of drapery. Drapery has stretch and pinch. It's a little bit more obvious. Would you agree? You know, like if but the thing is, depending on the material and on the person that you can just think of the person you're drawing as different materials. If I draw somebody here, let's say I have, here's the underneath, the arm. So if you're, you know, this is just a side note, if you draw drapery, it's a good idea to figure out what's underneath a little bit. Just shaking someone's hand. So this is what's underneath. So we'll know that drapery itself, there'll be this will be the stretch side, and this will be the pinch side. That's what's gonna happen. Let me just duplicate this so we can have the two different materials. So if I'm drawing somebody who's wearing like a really big, very thick material, like a sweatshirt, I might get bigger folds, and it might not be that frequent. So the folds will come down, and then maybe I'll get this like really big one right here. And then maybe it gets cinched by the little band. So I might get something like this. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So let's say we have another sweatshirt it's still round material. It's like cotton, so the material is not that sharp, but it's a little bit thinner. So what's going to happen is we might get a similar shape. But because the material is thinner, we might get more folds. But they're still going to be round. Here, it'll go here. We'll get a little bit of bump here. Bump before. Does that make sense? So if we think of the figure with the same concept, we can still have curves that are relatively straight, even in the pinch side, right? Versus, this is one pinch, same pinch. This is someone who's more fleshy. Maybe this is somebody who has less fat. That pinch is there, it's just sharper. Does that make sense? Stretches and pinches are not just restricted to a muscle that's being tense and relaxed. There's also thinking about how heavy is this person. So you can have stretches and pinches that are fairly straight, but they're relatively, depending on the body type that you're drawing, they're relatively round and they're relatively sharp. And how hard you decide to round things off, that's up to you. For example, you can have somebody who's heavier set, but you can have a straight because let's say you want to say that, let's draw two curves. It sounds like a lot, but when you're actually drawing and you're making the decisions, it won't feel that way. So let's say this person is heavy set, so they have a bump like this, right? So it's like almost an S curve. But let's say that you want to say that, where it's pinching, it's really cutting in. So maybe it stays fairly straight here, curved here, and then when it gets to the actual pinch, you can straighten it out. So it's like a curve and then a straight.
So it's
Does that make sense?
So is communicating more weight there? Is that why it's straight?
Yeah, it could be because you want to communicate more weight, or it could be because you want to communicate that it's really just getting pushed in.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
And even this fat here, you can decide as you draw that, this is generally when a muscle or something peaks at the top, or the curve peaks more towards the top, it's saying there's some kind of force here, like pushing up. I'm like moving my fingers. Like it's pushing up, that's what's causing the peak to be here. And when the peak is lower, it's saying it's more relaxed. So it's letting gravity do more of the work. So it's picking down this way. So that really depends on how you want, what you want to describe. So I might do this if I want to say that, the leg is pushing up. So it's causing the fat to also get pushed up as well. Or I can say that, hey, this person has a lot of fat and the muscle is, the fat is actually relaxed. It doesn't matter that the legs are pushing up. Maybe I can pinch it here, so things are pushing up this way. Does that make sense? So that thing I gave you with this muscle is tense and this muscle is relaxed, that's just one way of using it. That's the thing. In terms of design, like line ideas, As long as you stay consistent with what you're saying, it's fine. As long, does that make sense?
Yep.
Like, let me give you another example, and then we'll go into the demo. So, like, in terms of lines, right? We can draw a straight and we can draw a curve. Those are the lines that we have. In terms of lines that we can make, it's like, well, we can make a thin line and then we can make a thick line. We can also make a thin line that's very hard and a thick line that's very soft, right? I mean, those basically, that's pretty much all we have to work with. How we organize those things will give us different meanings. For example, if you draw a muscle and you decide to say that, you know, muscles are round, so, or soft, so I'm going to make them maybe a little bit thinner. And then when it gets to like actually let's just draw the top of the knee. I think that'll be faster. Here's the belly of the muscle. So it's fairly thin. And then when you get to the kneecap, maybe you decide, hey, it's bone, so I'm gonna make it darker. Then it gets into the, what's that thing called? The lower part of your calf muscle, where it's called the tibialis anterior, and it's muscle, so you leave it thin. Does that make sense?
Yep.
As long as you do follow this same concept throughout your whole image, your image will be fine. You can also decide, hey, you know what? I want my lines to mimic the light. So the light is coming from the left, and it's going to hit this side of my leg. So what's going to happen is this side of my leg, I'm going to keep all the lines thin. And the other side of my leg, which is not getting light, I'm going to make it darker because that part is not receiving light.
Would you mind changing the color of that line just so it's clearer? Because I think the recording won't be able to pick it up on that. Yeah.
Sure. Let's make it. Let me play around with it. Is that better?
Yep. Yep.
Screw it.
Yeah, that's good.
I'll just move it. I'll move it right here, or right there. There you go.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks. Oops.
But it depends, and how you want to use these simple ideas. It just depends on how you want to use it, basically. And as long as you keep things consistent, it's fine. You can't, as long as we're not doing things like, hey, it's thin here, and then now it gets thick here, and then does that make sense? It's like having too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
You know, it depends. Like every artist I've met has like their own thing that they're doing with it. Because every artist has like a set of lines that they like to use. Like they're kind of like their go-to lines to mean certain things. So it's different for everyone, and you guys can develop your own. You know, I mean, I think it's inevitable. You'll develop your own over time. Like there'll be a set of lines that you like to use. And what they mean, like, you know, there's we use rounds on muscles, and then curves on muscles, and then when it becomes a bone, we use straights. But then there's also like, how do we use, what happens when the muscle is flexed, and we want to, you know, use straights to show flexed muscles as well. So that's where we're going to have to, you know, we can make things relatively hard or relatively soft. Sorry, this gets into like edges and stuff like that, which I don't want to get into. I think it's too much, at least for right now. It can get very confusing very fast. I think that's why rendering is hard to learn if you're naturally a blind person, which I was. Because everything in rendering is relative. Everything in value is relative. Like something dark can be light because it's just depending on what it's what's surrounding it. Something sharp can look very soft just because it's surrounded by all these sharp things or sharp edges. So for now, like I said, just focus on stage 1 and stage 2. It's very easy to get more and more complex. It's harder to make sure that like the stuff we're doing right now in the very early stages, that's more important. And then, you know, adding all the cool, I guess the cool stuff. I mean, it's all fun to me, but like the quote unquote cool stuff that you want to do later, as long as this stuff is set up, that cool stuff is very easy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And overall, I mean, even the way I design light and dark patterns, the first design idea I learned was drapery. Just think of it like drapery. Because, so like here, I could give you another idea just to think about. When we look at muscles, it's kind of hard to tell like, you know, what's what, right? Like, okay, well, which muscles are activated in this? It's kind of hard to organize everything. But if you think about it like this, let's say someone has their arm raised up and they're holding like a towel. All the details on the drapery are going to go towards the pull points. Does that make sense? I mean, we're not going to have stuff like this happening randomly. Everything's going to go to that point. So it's the same thing when we design a figure. Let's just say there's a pull point on the right side, just to keep things simple. Let's just use the potato sack, just to make things simple. Everything's pulling up this way. So guess what? When we design our light and dark pattern, all the details are going to go towards that pull point. So maybe we have a detail here, a detail here.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And, you know, if you know anatomy, all that happens is you start to hide this. Like I really said, like I told you guys, drawing is like a magic trick. The better you get, the better you get at hiding what you just get better at hiding your tracks. So if you notice how I'm organizing all my details, it's just I'm just finding any muscle or, you know, anatomical excuse. If I don't know anatomy, I'm just looking for an excuse to just have all my details point to that one place.
Yeah,
The same idea.
That's really cool.
A lot of people, you know, this is where you might get a little bit of disconnect, but like I said, the more you can relate things, the better, because this translates directly into like concept design. Like when it comes to, I need to design a character who's very friendly, and I want them to feel approachable and even like huggable. So what shape should I use more of? Should I use more of this triangle, or should I use more of a square, or should I use more circles or some round shapes? Round, right? So it's like I'll look for any excuse to use round shapes just to keep them. If my character, if you watch like Lilo and Stitch, one of the things that like Chris Sanders wanted was, you know, even the quote unquote scary characters in that cartoon, that, they have, because they have like sharks and stuff like that. They're even though they have a triangle shape like this, nobody has a sharp tip. Everybody's kind of rounded, even if they have, kind of sharp shapes, just to keep things, everybody's like huggable and friendly in a way.
Yeah, I can see that. That is such a cool. I love Stitch. That is such a cool character.
Yeah, man, he's so nice. Chris Andrews is so nice. And I was fanboying when I saw him. Hey, you're Chris Andrews. but but anyway, yeah, that's all most of this stuff is. So I'll critique this. If we have time, a little bit of time after class, I'll make sure to get to everybody's if you uploaded your homework. But let's get to the demo. Today we're gonna talk about likeness. By the way, that when I first found out that organizing, that whole magician thing, that's what I found out. It made it a lot more, I guess, accessible, or it took a lot of intimidation factor away because I know, like, I learned a couple of magic tricks. I just learned it. I just thought it was cool. Like, there's one where you rip a tissue paper and then you put it together. But it's actually you have a unripped tissue paper in your palm and then you pull that one out. And when people are looking at the like, whoa, how did you do that? You throw away the bits that were torn. You just throw it away real quick, or you put it in your pocket. But the thing is, like, yeah, hide the shame or whatever it is, right?
Put it in your
The
mouth.
thing is this: it's like put it in your mouth. When you first see a magic trick, I mean, this is it really is art. Because one of the cool things about what we draw is whoever sees your drawing, if it's if they think it's cool, they'll actually remember it better than it actually was. That's it's just like magic, do you know what I mean? Like if you look at someone's drawing and you try to remember it, you remember it like way better. And when you actually look at the drawing, maybe even some of the details you kind of filled in, like, oh yeah, it was this, it wasn't there. You filled it in.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when they teach, when a magician shows you how a trick is done, it's very easy, and you're like, oh, it's so obvious. But then when you try to do it, when we try to do it, it's very hard.
Yeah.
Someone there's the maybe our dex our fingers aren't dexterous, or they're not skillful enough yet. It takes time to perfect it. Yeah, it's exactly like that. Like, what's that game called? Actually, no, it's still a good game. I have to say, Mega Man 2 is still a good game. I enjoy playing it every now and then. I can still beat it, which is nice. Yeah.
Nice.
But the thing is, like, the better you get, what ends up happening is you start honing your craft, and you take a very simple idea, like, like, oh, hey, there's a coin behind your ear, or whatever, some lame trick like that. And over time, since you gain more experience and you get better at hiding it. You hone your craft, so it really does look like magic. And so when we draw, it's the same thing. The more experience you have and the more honed our skill is, to someone it'll look like magic. Even to other artists, it looks like magic. Even artists who know what you're doing, it will look like magic. Like, a lot of it. Do you guys know Craig Mullins?
Yeah. Simon goes on about him. Yeah, I definitely know him for one.
Yeah. Like Craig Mullins, a lot of the stuff he does, we know it. We know what he's doing, but we don't know how he does it.
Yeah. I'm 100%.
It's like, I know you're gonna separate light and dark. I know you're working on this. I know you're working back to front. I know you're doing this, but how do you do it? So I mean that's
It's
what
like
happens. The better you get,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's
What?
like no, really, tell me, how do you do it?
He's like, no, I just. That's the thing. If you watch like a Steve Houston YouTube clip or something, he's telling you everything he's doing. He's not hiding anything from you. Maybe he's saying it in a more like a more artistic way because I've noticed he's got. At least for me, I feel like he's gotten more that way. But it's like it's like a lot of analogies and stuff like that. No literal
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
But literally he's telling you everything he's doing. You're like, "Well, that can't be it." It's like, no, that's it. It's a ball in a tube. It's like, no, no, there's anatomy. Yeah, it's a ball and a tube and another ball and it's a tube. And this is a box. No, but there must be something. Like, no, but it's a ball and a tube.
What's in your pencil?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. The better you get, the more what you do. You just be able to finesse whatever it is you're doing, and so people will start to think you're doing something else. Let's see here. So let's get into likeness here. Let's draw this one. Okay. I guess tomorrow I'll draw somebody else so that it's not always Barry. So the key to likeness, I went over this, I think, on the first day. If not, I'll go over it again. It's not somebody's features that helps us recognize someone. It's their overall silhouette. And, anime and a lot of cartoons, they take full advantage of this. So, who is this? It's Mickey, right? And not doing anything. I don't know if you guys know who this is, but who's that?
Oh.
Disney rat, nice. Yeah, Felix. And one of the things that I think it was Kevin who said this. It's like, why do you think Felix is not as successful as Mickey Mouse when a kid looks at it?
Because of round shapes, maybe?
Yeah, because Mickey is round everywhere, but Felix has these two knives, technically, these two sharp shapes at the end. So most likely a kid will see Mickey Mouse and Felix the cat, put them next to each other, more likely to go towards Mickey because he's safe, he's huggable everywhere, whereas Felix has the 2 points.
Yeah.
Another thing is how powerful like our shape is when it comes to likeness and how we can play with things. So let me ask you this: if you're a sniper,
No, that's not Mickey.
sorry, what?
Oh, I was like, no, don't start Mickey.
Oh, no, we're not gonna snipe Mickey. We can. But,
I thought you were gonna draw a guy
Oh.
just pointing at Mickey.
no, we're not gonna snipe Mickey. If what's it called? I should draw a smaller. If you're a sniper, which one are you more likely to shoot? A, B. B, right? It's because B is recognizable as a human silhouette. That's why what's it called? A lot of snipers when they hide or hunters, they wear a ghillie suit. So they change their silhouette to look like part of the background or part of the woods. So they become shapes that are not easily recognizable, or they become recognizable as different shapes so that we identify them as, oh, this is a tree, or this is I don't know, a rock or dirt on the ground. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So what we're basically doing when we learn to draw Eric, as I mentioned before, is we're just learning how to draw a ruler. So we can just use a communication tool. So it's like, okay, well, this person is doing this person is doing this. After we get very comfortable with doing that, all we're doing is modifying him or just changing Eric's shapes to more closely match the model. That's all it is we're doing. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So step one, what we're going to do is we're going to draw Eric. And as we draw Eric, we're going to start modifying. So it's like, okay, what's the shape of Barry's head? So we'll start with the head, and then we'll go down to stage one, get the head to the shoulders, and we'll start modifying that shape. Then we'll draw stage two, which is the torso, and then we'll start modifying the shape. Going back to the idea of, we need a shape there so that we can compare something until we get to a point where we can visualize something. But it helps if just something is there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
All right, cool. So what we're going to do is, all right, let's start with Barry. We're just going to draw Eric. Remember, stage one and stage two, and then we're going to modify it as we go. I used to draw the full Eric and then modify it then, but I found out it takes a little bit longer. So now I just draw stage one, modify it, then go to stage two, then modify it. Like I said, over time, even you have to change your teaching as well.
Yeah.
Start with our
it's
circle.
like whatever works best for us to learn, hey?
Yeah, and because every time I draw, I'm still explaining it to myself as I draw.
Right, yeah.
If you guys have to, talk to yourself when you draw. Okay, fine. Because like I said, a lot of times you can resolve issues just by talking to yourself. It's especially like observation skills, something like, well, what's the head doing? And I told you, did I tell you last week about how our crits go at CDA? Esmeralda, they walk around.
Yeah.
Always ask. The first question we ask is, I always draw a circle. What's the head doing? And then, the student will say what the head is doing, and their observation is correct. But then when we see what they drew, it's not that. So sometimes just saying it out loud, it helps, because then there's your focus. So right now it's 3/4 view. He's slightly tilting back a little bit. Right, so that's what we draw. Right, so let's go half radius out. One radius down. I'm extending just a little bit more because I know Barry's face is longer. But I'll still draw most of Eric. Half radius out for the back of his head. Draw the avocado. We can use a circle to drop the jawline. Top of the head, bottom of the chin, we can mark off the halfway point, the eye line. I can see I need to tilt the head back a little bit more, so I'll tilt the chin back as well. The head is so small, you don't have to worry about converging perspective. If you draw any object that's fairly small, you can just keep the perspective parallel. You don't have to worry about converging them. The only time you actually do need to converge them if it's an extreme view, like somebody looking through a keyhole, or like a fisheye, or maybe let's say like the head is really big, like a Easter Island head or something. then we do need to converge the perspective lines. Somewhere here. That make sense?
Yep.
And there's your person.
And I've got a question with so with the head now, you're drawing Eric straight up, or are you drawing Eric first and then modifying it? Because yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm drawing Eric first and then modifying it.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Nice.
Somewhere here, converge. I learned from a buddy of mine how to do fake perspective. I shouldn't. Actually, no, it's okay. It's useful. I think it's more useful than. Yeah, it's called fake perspective, but it's not really. It actually falls along the same line of it's the idea of form. It's a form idea called consistency. We'll go over more next week. Because
now you got me curious.
I think I have some of his artwork here. No, I don't. Okay, well, you can show you his page
you can
real
stick
quick.
to you can stick to the curriculum. It's fine.
I can show you his page in a little bit. But the idea is, you know, I thought because he's an architect, he has a background in architecture, because he didn't know that he could be an environment artist. Like, that wasn't a choice for him. Like, that wasn't, like, he wanted to do that, but he didn't know that was a job. So he went to UC Berkeley and got a degree in architecture. And then later on, he found out, hey, there's a job called environment design. Oh, crap. And then so, he made the shift. But because he was an architect, I thought, oh man, this guy's perspective must be like spot on and all this. And then one day I watched him draw and he's like, no, it's all fake. What? Because he freehands all his perspective. And what he said makes a lot of sense. He said that, like, and especially like some of the other artists I know that all freehand their perspective. They're saying the vanishing point is way too far off the image, like way too far off the image. Vanishing point being these things. And another thing that, I forget, I think it was the same artist, he was saying that, like, if you go outside and you take a picture of the buildings and you plot perfect perspective lines, they're not perfect either.
Yeah, I've tried that. Like, that's true. Like, there are times when I couldn't, like, for some reason, some lines look off, but I didn't know why, because I've measured everything out. Do you know why that is?
I think it's because, mainly because they're man-made, So
What, like
we don't
human
build
error?
things. They're not exactly completely straight. I mean, if you drive a car down because your car can go straight, right?
Yeah.
You can drive down a straight road and you still need to adjust your wheels so that it stays on you can even lock your car and have it go straight and your car will drive off the road eventually because the road is not 100% straight.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why, but you're saying nothing in perspective, nothing is like, yeah, there's a little bit of human error in it, and it's a lot, even in drawing. If your drawing is too perfect, it looks a little bit weird. You have to mess it up just a little bit. So, freehand in perspective, he was just saying that the lines will eventually converge somewhere over there and somewhere over there. And he says, as long as I keep things consistent, it's believable. I mean, there are little tricks, like real perspective tricks that you need to use, like, finding the middle of something, you draw X. and you can find the exact center, stuff like that. Finding, you know, if I want to find this in the next level, I have to draw an X and draw a diagonal, and wherever that hits, that's this next section. They're the same size.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's. But yeah, so and then, you know, like I said, everything is relative, right? If you draw, you know, because his freehand perspective is not straight either. Like, I mean the lines, they're not 100% straight. But the thing is, if you have lines like this in your image, these look relatively straight, right?
Yep.
But as soon as I put a real straight there, they're all crooked now.
Yeah, it makes it. Yeah, so it's kind of relative.
Yeah, everything is relative. So if you look at his images, nothing is like, he didn't use like a ruler to plot down a perfect straight. It's like, geez, even his three, and you'll see, I'll show you some of the stuff after I do the demo. You'll see they're like really insane looking. And, you know, he's not like really going, because I had a friend who did plot his perspective lines, and the way he would do it, this is back in the day, is he would have to work constantly in thumbnail, and then he would blow it up. Because, you know, the vanishing points, you know, this is like his thumbnail, and the vanishing point would be like way out here. There's no way you're going to use a full piece of paper to do that, and especially if you don't even know if the image works well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it's all relative, right? So that's what I learned from, his name is Gabe. But anyway, so we draw our Eric. So we'll get to we'll finish off section 1, and the body is straight. All right, so let's mark off the mask. I don't want you guys don't have to draw the features or anything, just get the overall shape. Mask will be somewhere here. Start to curl back a little bit earlier. That being said, you still need to learn perspective. And even my friends that teach perspective, there's certain things they don't teach anymore. They think, oh, you guys don't really need to know how to do that because of all the cool programs we have now. And even if you freehand, you rarely ever need to do some of this stuff. So it's like, yeah, like Paulina, she was like, I don't teach that. Like, she teaches for us, or she teaches for us. She also teaches for CDA. She would say, yeah, I don't teach that anymore. Like drawing a spiral staircase, and I'm ashamed to say I forgot how to do all that. I can do it, I'm pretty sure now, if I just sit down for a while, I'll remember it, but I can't. It's been a while.
Yeah, that spiral staircase sounds really hard.
Yeah. The other thing we had to do at Art Center was we had to draw a house drawn from an actual blueprint. So they give you a front view, and I think a top view, and a side view of the house, and you have to draw it in scale.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
Yeah. And I'm ashamed to say I forgot how to do that. I just remember, you know, you have to drop a line from here, and then the picture of the other one here, and then you bring them together, and where they converge, that's the new mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you like being an architect, it's fine. It's just like I said, Gabe, that's the artist. He didn't know that environment design was a thing. That's what he wanted to do, but he didn't know that he could make money that way. And that's what makes him unique right now. That's why he's in high demand. And I was very fortunate enough to teach with him at Otis, and I got to basically listen to his lectures.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice when you get to teach and then um, I don't know, and then basically, like I learned a lot from Jonathan, and it was funny because I taught next to Jonathan for like 2 years, and we never talked.
Is this Jonathan Quo or who?
Yeah, Jonathan Quo, it was, when I was teaching at CE, I was in one room and he was in the other one, and we just never talked. And then
Oh
once,
no.
hey, Jonathan, no, we started picking each other's brain, but it's just funny that that's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the cool thing is, make sure. One advice I would give you guys is make sure you guys draw together. I learned a lot from my friends because the gap between me and let's say like Danny is like this. I'm like here. That's our gap. you know. But let's say my friend Alex, our gap is like this, and when I improve, it's noticeable. When he improves, it's noticeable, and they can usually tell you what they did right away. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wait,
Like,
who's
oh yeah,
what's Danny's full name? Oh,
oh Galliotti.
Yodi. Cool.
He
Thanks.
was an animator at Disney. Right now, if you can probably see his videos on YouTube for New Masters Academy or NMA. But yeah, he used to be an animator. Now he's a good
No.
painter.
Oh,
Like I said, he didn't he doesn't he didn't really like three. He likes 3D animation, but I don't think he liked doing it.
and
So
you're just being
here,
modest as well. That's such a big like yeah, you're just being modest as well. I'm sure you're doing better than you think you are.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it was easy because like your friend, we always draw together, but then when they, you look at their homework, and all of a sudden their homework's really good, and then just ask, like, hey, what did you do? How did you do this? And because it's still new in their head, and they just figured it out, they can tell you.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start modifying stage one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you guys should draw together. It's a good way to, we're artists, so we usually don't talk to each other that much. Like I said, Jonathan, I was next to him for like 2 years and we didn't say anything. Just one day, hey, Jonathan. Hey.
Yeah, I think I tend to like just be in my own world and draw by myself quite a bit. Should probably draw people. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's Google Hangout and stuff like that. So I think it's good to do that, and talk shop with your friends because like I said, when your friends improve, they can, unless they're going to be merely mean about it, want to keep things secretive, which most of us don't do that. They usually just open about it to tell you like, yeah, this is what I did. Oh, okay, cool. So all I'm doing now is just modifying the Eric shape. Let's see this part. This is cheek. And I'm starting early on because before I would draw the full Eric, and then I would modify the head, and I'd realize that all the stuff I drew, I would have to redraw it. So now I just draw the first part, and I just start editing right away. Saves a little bit of time. The other way to do this is you draw just enough of Eric. You don't draw all of it, you just draw enough so that you can start. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm still on the fact that you're being so modest. I was thinking like, dude, I see your stuff on ArtStation and it's freaking awesome. Like you paint like Line Decker, man. Line Decker's fucking beast. Like he's cool. Like I look up to him. And
Oh,
it's cool. It's your stuff's really awesome.
oh, thank you, sir. But like I said, I don't know. Like I said, you're always trying to look ahead. That's what it is. If I could be Line Decker, it'd be so awesome. If I could paint like him, man, I could just walk into any studio and just say I work here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't see many digital artists doing that. Like, I think you're the first, like, which is, well, I don't know, like, I don't know too many artists, but like, as in painting kind of like him, like, because I can see the color palette and the strokes are like very, line decoration. It's really cool. Like, I think that's, and I couldn't, like, I honestly can't really tell too much. I mean, like, too much in differences. Like, I mean, the subject matter and stuff, but like the application, yeah, it's really cool. Anyway,
Oh, thank you.
I'll stop like brushing up. So you keep going. I'll stop talking now.
No, it's cool. Like I said, if you guys like, the thing that was strange is in the beginning, I was really studying line decker in school because I don't know anybody who paints like that. Like, and then when I did a little bit of research, even in his time, in line decker's time, there were a lot of people trying to paint like line decker. Even Norman Rockwell. If you look at Norman Rockwell's earlier work, it looked line decker.
But didn't Rockwell come before Decker, or did Line Decker?
No.
Right. Okay.
Line decker before, and Norman Rockwell really looked up to line decker. There was an incident where Line Decker visited Norman Rockwell's studio, and then the story is he was ashamed because he was using photos. Because
Yeah, right.
even then, even though he was using photos, he never copied the photos. He would always put, like, what's his name? Norman Rockwell always pushed the drawings about 10%. So it's always a little bit caricature.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a book with all of a lot of Norman Rockwell's reference pictures and the final paintings. You can look at the difference. And he even has a book called How I Paint. You can just learn like how he painted. Plus, there's also this. So if you guys don't know about this, if you go on eBay, you can look up the, I think it's called Greatest Art. Well, I'll look up the name, but basically your teacher would be, it's the original online schooling, where basically what you would do is you would get this book. Oh, because at the time, using photos is kind of, like weak sauce. They all work from live models, and then, oh, no problem. So yeah, that was like weak sauce back then. But even Line Decker said he does use photos. There's an interview that you can read in one of the illustration magazines where someone asked him about his process. And even Line Decker's process is not like, I want it to be magical, but it's not. It's very logical. It's like, I just draw something. I don't know what I want, so I'll sketch out what I want. Then I'll get a model. Then I'll do a bunch of studies. And then I'll do the final draw. I'll do the painting. That's all it is. But anyway, I think it's called Greatest Art. art course or something. Yeah, the famous artist school. What's it called? You can buy those books. I think none of them are new now. Like you can't find one that's brand new. Or if you do, it'll be very expensive. I have them, and the student I got is a C student. Like all the grades in there are C. So basically, what you would do is you would get this book or this binder, and then the binder would have all these lessons in it, and then it would have the homework inside, and then you do the homework, and then you mail it. And when you mail it, you have to wait for a little bit. You just start the next homework assignment, and when you start the homework assignment, you'll probably get feedback.
It's like really
But yeah,
delayed
the
feedback.
student, yeah, it's like a delayed feedback, but you will get feedback. And like I said, the student I had was a C student. I have all those books. You can find them on eBay. So right now, all I'm doing is drawing Eric again, drawing the body. Or you know what? Maybe you don't have to. I keep forgetting you don't have to buy the thing anymore. You can probably find a PDF of it somewhere. But yeah, your teachers would be Norman Rockwell, Albert Dorn. Forget the name of the other guy, but yeah, really good teachers. And they wrote the lesson, so you can get it directly from them. And on YouTube, there's video footage of Dean Cornwell drawing.
Yeah, his stuff is awesome.
Yeah, it's very weird seeing them paint. It's like black and white. Was it black and white? I don't remember.
Yeah, doesn't he mostly do pencil drawings and stuff? Or I might have been mistaken.
No, he does Dean Cornwell did a bunch of illustrations as well. He has his own style. It's like if you're studying form and shape, just strictly form and shape, like Leyendecker and Dean Cornwell are probably the best to study, I think, in my opinion, because they don't hide what they're doing. It's very easy.
Yeah.
They're very obvious with their construction lines and everything. Especially Dean Cornwell. His drawings, you can just see the construction lines. So now I'm just going in and remodifying here. I'm going to stage 2. And as I draw, I'm starting to see areas I can change to make it match Barry a little bit more. So it's my first pass. So just to let you guys know what I'm doing here, I'm just building out the eye socket. So if you guys draw a 3/4 view, make sure you build out that eye socket. So if you find the crosshair, don't just draw the this is called this part here. Shoot. Of the keystone, don't just draw it like this. When you draw the keystone, you want to make sure you build it out.
Oh, also, could we get 3.0?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, cause like
Yeah,
cause I wanna that would have the eye socket in there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really,
great.
you're just drawing that awning shape or that visor. You want to make sure you build it out. Otherwise, the face is flat.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the only reason why I'm starting from here, I don't really care about that you guys draw the nose or anything. It's just so that it helps us to anchor, like get an anchor point for the face. I can already tell the neck needs to be a little bit longer. But anyway, so we have section 2, so section 1, we're moving on to section 2. Once we draw Eric, we just modify the shape to match section 2 now.
Oh, could we have like a quick break in like soon?
Yeah, we can take a break in 2 minutes. That'll make it easier to
Yeah,
track.
yeah, no problem. Yeah. Just so there's a
No,
break
no, no.
in there.
Homework. For homework, you can't do this in 10 minutes. Take as long as you need. Like last week, you're doing 20 figures, but still mark it for 10 minutes. So you start like when you mark it for 10 minutes, you can start to see if you're getting faster or not. It's a good way to kind of track your progress. No, the full body. We're just because I'm not having you draw the full body and then modifying it. I'm having you draw one section, modify, next section, modify, next section, and then modify.
And basically,
So
yeah. And basically you mean like
what?
basically you mean like do these for like spend as long as you need, but like have the timer set for 10 minutes so that you know how long each of these are taking. So like say if you take like 10 minutes of to do one, or like 10 minutes, you kind of have an idea of the timing. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. And eventually what will happen is hopefully over time, or maybe even in this class, you'll start to see in 10 minutes, you get a little bit further.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I find that for myself, like that I could see, like it's just like a good tool for like measurement to see how you're going with like speed and stuff. And
Yeah, and also I think it helps you to get your homework done faster, because I always found out when I do my homework at school in a workshop, my homework's done really fast, but then when I'm at home, I realized, oh man, I'm taking all these breaks and whatever. Because at school, it's just 5 minutes, you do this, 10 minutes, you do this, 10 minutes, you do this, and they just kind of time everything. So kind of let me know like how much time I'm wasting or. All right, looks like that's 2 minutes. So let's take a 5-minute break, and then yeah, we'll finish this one off, and then yeah.
sweet, thank you.
Right. See you guys in 5 minutes. This off.
Yep.
Just wanted to say,
Yeah.
How do we access the Google Drive?
Oh, it's hang on, I'll post it back on the collab because it's kind of I posted on the collaborate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I had to go out, so I lost all the old messages.
Yeah, no problem. Like I just posted up.
You didn't upload it on Google Drive?
normally I just drag it in.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, seems to be. Very cool.
or you could just go right click. Sorry, you have to watch me literally have a meltdown reading the coach. I mean, I could have it. Oh, I think yeah, like. Notes, sir.
Well, I have, but not many visuals.
We.
How many notes have you taken?
He brings a notepad to school. How many notes have I taken?
Yeah.
Nothing. It's in my brain because I'm a chat.
Oh, well, I'm not blessed.
I'm built different.
You just don't remember anything.
That's right. No, you're just built different. The chip,
But
the chip implanted in your nose.
that's right, I have 5G imaging.
Wow.
5G,
Wow.
emitting from boba.
What's 5G?
Boba these.
So, what's your name again?
Jessica.
Oh, you're Chester.
Yeah.
I didn't know you just.
Me.
Right, and can you show me how to do that Google Drive thing? Because I'm not.
Yeah. Show again.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
well,
I was paying attention to something else.
well, I'll show you again, but inherently, yeah, so if you go to the Google Drive. So. Yeah. So if I were to step back.
Say if I let's just say I made a new folder. Right.
Right.
Oh, I can you can start from step.
Yeah. So there's always going to be a drop down arrow. You
Yep.
click on that and then you click on share.
Okay.
And then it'll open up a folder like this.
Yep.
And then you click on change. And then you click on that.
Okay. So and on the link, click on this.
And this will show you all the permissions that link will give
Right. Okay. So before it was on viewer.
viewers. So they can
Right.
access the folder, but they can't put anything in.
Okay. Right.
But
Okay.
editors
Cool.
can.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Sweet. Cool. Thanks.
And
Yeah. So that's easy.
yeah.
So I'll do that and then done.
If you want the link itself, you can drop down and then
So,
yeah.
Right.
Including the.
And
Okay.
it should
Yeah.
open up the same window
Well, I
again.
haven't found this.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah. Sweet.
I mean, like.
Yeah, because we might have to do this again next week.
First, like, going
Yeah.
to get like the.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Thanks.
Now I can get the head, body, and leg forms and the. So.
Sigma? Oh.
And
Sigma.
It's gonna get confused with ways.
Bro, shut up.
Right? Is everybody back?
yep, I'm back. Yep.
Right. Cool. So for those of you who are, I noticed some of you guys are kind of struggling with connecting the hips, or not the hips, the legs. Basically, the idea is this: when you find your leg hole, I guess that's what you can call it. What I'm marking off is it's a few steps to it. We find the half, which gives us the pubic triangle, or where the stomach is going to insert. We find our box for that side plane. And all I'm doing is I'm just connecting a line straight across to that pubic triangle. And this is where the stomach will fit in. This is for later.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
To attach the legs, if you're having problems, just kind of throw in this little ball on the inside and just blend it. one little anatomical detail that I can give you right now that is important, and I usually draw it, is right at this corner, we have this muscle called the sartorius. It's the longest muscle in the body. I just go ahead and draw that, or kind of indicate that. The reason for that is because we can consider this part of our leg more of our leg bone, the femur. That's why we get, you know, if you look at a leg, you get these two bumps. Do you guys ever notice that?
Yeah, I do. I'm not sure.
Anybody else? Let's say it quickly.
So that's the right side is the inside of the leg, and then
I mean, the reason why we're simplifying it this way is we're saying that this is A and this is B. This part, A, is more going with the with your femur.
maybe you could just quickly trace it on the photo to show which part you're describing.
Oh, it's this. It's out of color.
Because I'm sure people notice, like they know, like, you know, once you show, like, yeah, I'm sure they'll notice.
Oops, not saturation, color. So this portion, I'm saying goes,
Yeah, so that's B, yeah.
that's B. Let me make that a different color. Then I'll replace that color. So this is like fat that hangs off from your femur, or this part will hang, not from your femur, from the pelvis, the bottom of the pelvis. And this green part here, A, this is basically representing your femur, your upper leg bone. There's the kneecap. Does that make sense? So these muscles are all just going with the femur. There's like a giant femur, and this is muscle hanging off the side of the femur.
Yeah, makes sense.
And if you're drawing a standing figure, you can take this inside your shape, the sartorius, and you can blend it into the shin bone all the way to the ankle like this. But you need to get a shape first, otherwise your leg might turn into noodles.
Yeah, so you get the silhouette, like the silhouette shape first, and then do that.
Yeah, and then I cut into it. So you can do it here too, where, you know, I found this point here. There's the sartorius. And there's the ankle.
Yep, makes sense.
This is called, this is something that I classified. It's called, yeah, I'm glad you used the word rhythm. This is called anatomical rhythm. That's how I've classified this, because it's relationships and gestures or connections that we see that are naturally there, formed by anatomy. So this is called, or I classify this as an anatomical rhythm, because anatomy just does this naturally. Little things like this are everywhere. So anyway, so we get the leg here. There's another rhythm I can tell you about right now. See this little dot here? Oops. I kind of marked it off here. That's a dimple. We have a lot of dimples in our body because muscles need to, it's not the edge of a clavicle, it's where your chest muscle and your deltoid are separating. So there's a little hollow. And those hollows are everywhere because muscles need a place to collapse. If we don't have those, the muscles, like I said, they just need space so they can move around. That's why we have an armpit. If you look here, you can see hollows within here. But one way I use that to my advantage is this technically hit the corner of a box for me, which usually lines up with the nipples. If the nipple line isn't there, because if you're drawing a woman, then the nipples, all of a sudden that goes out the window, right? But it usually lines up with the side plane of a box.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't see that before.
And another thing is, I think I mentioned this before. I look for details that are close to the center line, even when I draw it in my head, just so I can keep my drawings from, having maybe more on the left side or more on the right side, depending on the view. So I always draw the things that are close to the center line. So for my eyes, to judge the distance from here to here, from A to B, it might be too hard. But if I look at A and I look at, crap, I should call this C. Sorry, A to C, that's a long distance. But if I look at something closer, this is B, my eye can judge this fairly easily. Does that make sense? Because it's a shorter distance.
Yep.
These are all little things I look for. Right now, I'm just going to quickly mark off.
And I think Cheska asked something.
But yeah, something. Sorry.
Yeah, it was just in the chat. It was just So
yeah, the clavicles, right? Oh, okay. How does it work in relation to when the arm is raised and then pectoralis is stretched out? So your arm, the clavicle, the general rule, I'll go over this again, is when you raise your arm about, up like this, your clavicles don't do this. It doesn't go very high. It goes about 45 degrees.
right.
And then what's actually happening is, it's on a separate layer. I don't want to make that mistake again. Erase all this and start over. But anyway, so it's 45.
No.
No.
No. No. Just when he was revealing his secrets. Hey, Brian. That was my whole friend. Yeah. This is like fifth time now, hey? Yeah?
We had a good run.
Yeah, we did have a good run.
Until I asked the question.
Yeah. Maybe he like dropped that because he knows a secret. So he just pretend that he was like And then Cole's like, oh yeah, we finished explaining that. We're gonna go on now.
Like this.
Yeah. um. No connection. Hey, joining. Nah, he's coming back. He's coming back. He's joining. Joining. Nah, I hope
All
not.
right, cool.
Hey, you're back.
Hey,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, I'll definitely talk to Simon about it tomorrow.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, that's really annoying.
Wait, let me start sharing. So yeah, we were talking about the arms being
Yeah,
raised.
just when you're about to reveal the secret.
Oh no. Anyway, so let me know when you guys can see the screen.
Okay. Not yet. Yep. We can do it now.
All right, cool. So your arm raises about 45 degrees. And this is why it's important for us to draw the head and the pit of the neck. Because one of the things that happens when we draw people with their arms raised, it's a common issue, is we make the neck shorter. That's not what's happening. You know, we're not like turtles. We can't put our neck inside of our rib cage. What's going on is our shoulders are coming up. So what happens is when the arm raises like this, we're gonna start seeing the backside of the clavicle or the underside. And we'll still have our shoulder, this thing here called the deltoid. I see a little bump here, and then your I don't know muscle, your trapezius will bunch up. And then your chest is wrapping around like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the bulge actually covers the clavicles, yeah?
Yes. And we'll
Yeah.
still get the connection of the chest doesn't change. So what's happening is this muscle is just being stretched. So
Yeah, and also like, so I actually didn't know that the clavicles can't go over 45. So that's like, it's kind of the range of motion, right? Like you can't go any higher than 45.
you can just a little bit more. It's like if you look at the video, it's like right now it's about 45. This is me comfortably
Yep.
raising my arm.
Yep.
And
Continue.
then I can push it a little bit more when I hyperextend.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So generally, the rule is 45 degrees is like kind of how our body can move comfortably. Anything beyond that is considered hyperextension. So if you draw somebody, let me go to the chat. It distorts it. At this point, what you're going to have to do is we're going to have to look for, basically this point will move up. Or if we can't find that point, then we're going to have to rely on a different form idea, which we'll talk about. It's called consistency, and just look for front planes like this. There's several different ways of showing the muscle that are the planes there. But yeah, so going back to the rule of 45, we can move things, our head and everything about 45 degrees. So if you guys notice that you don't really get front views and side views of the neck, even though that's a prettier silhouette.
What do
You
you
don't
mean?
naturally have people doing.
What did you mean we
Look
don't?
at the video. Oh, we don't see that very often where people are standing there with their chest facing front like this, and then they're in a perfect side view like that.
Yeah, right. Okay. So you mean like when we interact with people, we don't usually see that.
Yeah, we won't see that. The only time we'll see that more naturally is if you're watching, like an MMA fight or boxing, because somebody's getting punched and there's an external force moving, forcing the body to hyperextend. And when you guys work on action poses, that's when you want to start breaking that 45-degree rule.
Yeah, that makes
So,
sense.
if someone's punching like this is more comfortable, then you want to draw them hyperextended so it looks more like they're punching, or you feel more for external force. You don't want to just keep it at neutral. That's why a lot of times when you illustrate something, like if you're going to illustrate an action, they usually have you illustrate before it happens or after it happens, not during. It doesn't look so good during. It's like
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we have stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. So now we're going to go and just modify stage 3. And even this with the lines, they don't have to be final. Means these are all placeholders. They might be accurate, but you might want to change things. Like for something I always do with Barry is I always whiten out his back. I think it looks better. He does have a white back. But I'm going to do that later. And this little detail I put here, that's where his fingers are. The reason why I do that is because when you draw anything with like where their hands are at their waist, or their hands are like this or whatever, it's easier to draw the negative space and get everything to match than it is on the outside.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a shorter distance, and also because I can, basically that's the only reason why. It's just a shorter distance for us to judge. Every time I draw the outside first, it's always longer. But going back to this, let's draw let's modify the legs. So here's the crotch. By the way, I used to do all my, when I started doing my long poses like this, which is not the ideal way, or not, at least what I was taught, it's not the ideal way. The ideal way is to draw the big shape and do this, measure.
Yep.
This was faster, and I got it at a better result. So I just started doing this. So I'm gonna draw Eric because it helps me.
What do you mean by long? Oh, you mean like you mean like doing it through without doing Eric and just doing it through purely measurements?
Yeah, measurements and like, okay, well, the only thing I would measure is how many heads they would take up, on my page.
Yeah.
And then I would just mark that off, and then I would just start drawing Eric, and I would get something in real quick. And then I would just use a little bit of both, but the Eric system, or drawing in Eric first, got me there much faster.
Right. Yeah, I get you.
Plus, I noticed my figure wasn't so stiff. So I don't know, I would recommend, if you guys do a long pose, you can do it the same way. Just go through the same steps. And another thing is, I would recommend you guys, it's my measuring base. It's always my measuring base. So that's why I have an Eric skeleton, which I've been developing. It's mostly was for me, and then I'm starting to share it more in a more analytical class. But a lot of the measurements, you don't need to know it. Like, you don't really need to know the measurements for the separation of all the ribs, because you don't. I don't know.
You
Like
don't
that
know
because
it.
I was teaching anatomy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I just said because we don't really draw ribs and stuff much.
Yeah, you don't need to draw we only end up seeing, honestly, I usually only see about, in the front, I only see about 3 or 4 ribs.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to draw all the ribs just so you can draw like one detail.
Yeah,
Draw
exactly.
the overall shape,
Yeah.
and then just.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean when I think I mentioned it before, where I was talking about theoretically learning to draw the figure by learning everything on the inside and then drawing out. Theoretically, that makes sense. But in terms of practice, it doesn't work.
Yeah, right.
It just takes way too long.
Yeah, it take years just to learn everything, and then you get to the skin finally.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas you can just draw, like the best way I think a good way of explaining it is you guys all can draw a tree, right? Like you know how to use, you draw a shape, you turn the trunk is a cylinder, or if it's more angular, you can make the trunks a little bit more boxy, and eventually you just drew a tree.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same thing when you're drawing a figure. I feel like a lot of times we just treat things differently just because the subject matter is different, but they're the same. You can treat an arm just like a tree branch. If you guys know how to draw a chicken leg, then you know how to draw the upper leg blending into the lower leg. So now all we're really doing is shape matching. Shape matching or shape designing, depending on, whichever one. What I like about what I liked about working this way versus the I know someone mentioned the force book.
Yep.
Was it the first week? Is this one I can control my curves. I can control the rhythms that I'm designing. And when I design my rhythms, I'm really thinking about it versus, if I do this, I can do this all day. There's a rhythm here, there's a rhythm here. Does that make sense? And still, I don't have I'm not sure if my shape is correct.
Yep.
With this method, I have a shape, and I can control the rhythms within my shape. And I can change my shape according to, what if I want to change it according to some kind of rhythm or some kind of relationship, like I want this to relate, I can do that, but it's all, I can control it. Because I've resolved gesture, shape, and proportion. I've resolved those. And I'm not looking for all the smaller gestures. I'm looking for big gestures and bigger ideas. Then I can break it down into the smaller, more crazier ones or the more artistic ones. There is a rhythm called artistic rhythm. Artistic rhythm is one you just make up. And it will, vary from situation to situation. So it's not like it's there all the time. Like anatomical rhythms, they're usually there. They're pretty reliable. But artistic rhythms, like there's one in the Riley method where it comes from the outside of the deltoid and it goes into the breast. That one I don't see very often. But honestly, I don't think I've ever used it. I've only seen Mark use it once in a demo.
So with Eric, do you do you do 7.5 heads at the moment, or have you already modified it to vary, like with the, like say when you draw Eric, like do you just get the do you keep it at 7.5 and then change it for a taller person, or do you do the heads thing in Eric as well?
Yeah, honestly, I always make Eric's legs a little bit longer. Just I go with whatever is visually more, aesthetically a little bit more pleasing. I need to unless there's a reason why I need to draw that person exactly the way they are, like their height, I always exaggerate a little bit.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Just remember, just like, never forget, people don't see your reference. People will see your drawing or the work you create. That's why it's more important to, make a decision based on, what your intent is. Mark used to say that you should one up the model.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I highly recommend looking at Dean Cornwell's drawings.
Yep. And how would you study him? Like, do you just copy him and try and like, yeah, like how would you suggest us studying him? Did he go? Shit.
No.
No. Yeah, guys, I'll let Simon know tomorrow.
No worries.
Yep. Hey, Brian. Yeah, we can see you now. We can't hear you though. You not yet. I can't hear you yet. I can see your lips moving now.
Okay, what about now?
Yep. So good now. We can see your screen also. Yeah. Yeah.
Alright.
Sorry
Cool,
about that.
so-
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on today, but all right. So let's finish this. We're gonna get to the arms, and then yeah. So after we go over, we're gonna go over shoulders next week, and then towards the end of class, we're gonna go into true value system. Or
Awesome. Yeah. Looking forward to those.
so that's when you can what's it called? When the whole form thing and everything. Hopefully by then you'll be a little bit comfortable with your shape, so you can just design whatever forms you want. I mean shapes you want. But before we got cut off, what I was gonna say is when you guys have time, just check out Gil Elfgren, and if you can, look at Gil Elfgren's reference pictures or the
Okay.
women that he's drawing. You can see that he highly styled, maybe not highly stylizes, but you can see sometimes like all the changes he makes. Because they'll have the model and then the image of the model next to the image. So yeah, iconic. He's like the main. Him and Sunbloom are like the main like pinup guys, I believe. And if you like Lilo and Stitch, Chris Sanders, he really likes George Petty. He's also a pinup artist. If you look at his feet, the way he draws legs, you can see where Chris Sanders got it. Same thing with if you guys like Batman Adventures, Bruce Timm, he likes George Petty. Or that whole pinup pinup artwork style. Right, so we drew down to the legs, and so now we're gonna draw the arms, and then we're just gonna modify. I know where the fingers are, so I mark that off. Look at that negative space. Here's the arm on this side. I have to mark off the hand, so the hand is somewhere here. I draw our noodle. There's our shoulder. Humerus on the other side. Blend the arm. No, I learned this from painting. A lot of painters do that. There's a lot of painters who don't draw. Like they don't draw the subject. They just start painting. And one of the ways they would fix their paintings, or when you watch them work on their paintings, it's one of the things they do. I'm gonna draw the these are the drawing, the drawing hacks. Like if like those life hacks, like the drawing hacks that nobody really, not nobody, it's just hard to talk about all of them because it's hard to remember all of them. It's you just accumulate it over time and then you just do it. Okay, so there's the gesture of the arms. There's the noodle. And then I'll go ahead and modify the arms. So like I said, take your time on these. If you feel like after you do it once and then, there's lots of things you want to fix and, starting over makes it easier, just draw it again. And then you can count that as your next figure. I have the arm a little bit lower. Okay, it'll still work. I don't know. I draw a female and male, so I'm not really sure. Right now, I'm drawing a lot of Barry because I have the most reference from Barry, and for teaching purposes, I don't like using cat too much because if I go over stomach muscles and then I show you cat, let me grab cats. Cat I use more for long poses now so that students can study edges. But hold on, let me show you cat's image. That's like, all right, we just went over a bunch of stomach muscles and arm muscles. Let's see, there's models. And then we draw cat. Kind of hard, right? Just go over leg muscles and let's draw a cat, so I don't get to apply it too much. So I use her more, a lot of the female models for longer poses where they can focus on hard and soft edges, and they can see a lot of differences in edges. I always cheat when I draw a cat because I know she doesn't like being drawn so subtle. So I usually make her a lot more curvier. I think I showed you guys the drawing, the long pose drawing.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I remember you talking about it as well.
Yeah,
And how Kevin was like, yeah,
Yeah.
she's really subtle.
she's like, would you rather? Yes, yeah, I'd rather you draw, like, I'd rather you have less figures and take your time more and have them be correct than, you know, like I mention this every time where that's the one bad thing about Art Center. It's good and bad. Because Art Center gives you so much homework, it also helped me to build bad habits because I would just draw fast to get done. Yes, 20 figures max. You can do more if you want, and I'd welcome that too. I mean, that happened at Art Center as well, you know, because, you know, like for analytical figure drawing, for Kevin's and maybe Danny's class, people always did more because at the beginning of class, you put up your homework on the crit rail, and everybody wants longer, better crits, or so. And Art Center classes were like 5 hours. Yeah, it's a crit rail. So Art Center has it's just a rail on the wall. You put your homework there, and you know, everybody wants a better crit or a longer crit. So there were instructors that you want a good crit, put it on the right side of the wall. If you didn't do your homework that well and you know it, just put it on the left side. I'll just look at it. And so people would just be like stacking their homework on the right side, and we would just do more. It's like, but yeah, you drew this. When we made the sculpture, it was like, Kevin just said, "Oh, do the muscles," and then someone was like, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna make every rib. You don't have to. It's like, I'm gonna make every rib. You're not doing it." So it was like that. It was like friendly competition. But Jared was in the sculpting class, so you know, can't beat Jared.
Jared who?
Oh, Jared Morantz. He was in.
Oh,
he was in
right,
the
Jared Moran.
anatomy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was the only one who made a freestanding sculpture. The rest of us, you know, because we don't know anything about, well, the clay we were using was Chabot clay. We don't know too much about that. Jared, you know, is like already been working, you know, as a sculptor. So he made a freestanding sculpture, and his looked amazing. The rest of us had a giant pipe coming out of the butt. No, it was just easier. So, you know, to have the sculpture be standing, because the armature has to be really strong, and you know, Kevin can't go around bending all the armature for everybody. Make sure the armature is correct. So,
Wait,
because
so Kevin was teaching sculpture, like sculpting the human figure?
yeah, it was just like 2 terms or 1 term, I believe.
Oh, cool. I didn't even know he could sculpt and stuff.
Yeah, every artist that I know, or you know, like they can sculpt because school, you know, Art Center, we have to make stuff like that. We have to make things. Oh, we used to. I don't know what they're doing now, but so we all had to learn how to sculpt with Sculpey or whatever.
That's so cool. How many years is Art Center like to finish off the course? Because I don't know, like, yeah, there's so much talent there.
It's not that long. It's technically, if you go straight through without taking any breaks, it should be like 3 years. I
Right.
wouldn't recommend that. You burn out.
Yeah, yeah.
Plus, like I said, I was very lucky at the time when I was at Art Center. The other schools were still open, like associates was still open. Like Mark hadn't like been right when Mark closed down associates. LAFA opened, Los Angeles Academy of Figurative Art opened, so a lot of the teachers teaching at associates went over there.
Right. Okay.
Steve Houston was still living in Pasadena, so he had his workshops going. The animation union is not that far away, so you can go there. And then I think from Art Center it's only about like 20 minutes away.
Oh my God, so much talent in one spot.
It's nice. It's really
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
it's really
it is,
nice.
yeah, because it's also cool because I think I mentioned this before, where if you go to associates, they draw a different way, and then if you go to Art Center, they draw a different way. If you go to like the animation union, they draw a different way. You got to be exposed to different ways of drawing. But they have different philosophies, so every student kind of draws a little bit differently.
Oh, and this is going back to the thing, like to the exercise. I sometimes have trouble finding the end of the rib cage, and like the tilt of the rib cage. Like I kind of I know like so the nipple line is not reliable, right? Or
No.
how else would you try and find that? Like say if the tilt of the rib cage is kind of covered by an arm or something, or like how would you kind of find that tilt?
So I pay attention to the sternum. That's one place to start.
Okay. So oh yeah, 90 degrees to the sternum, right, would be.
Yeah. Um, oops. So I pay attention to the sternum. And then if I can see a little bit of detail, I'll start looking down here for if there's any protrusions or if there's little marks.
Yeah.
I can also look at, there is another clue, but it's not on everybody. Your clavicles don't connect like this, right? They're not connected like right in the middle. Actually,
No.
it's in space. That little space in the middle, that's also a flat plane.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so subtle.
It's subtle. The more you look for it, the more you keep looking at it, the more it
Yeah.
becomes a little bit more obvious. And if I can find this, but then I can't find the 10th rib, I know that the 90-degree rule applies here. So the 10th rib will be somewhere here. And what I'll do is when I start rendering, I'll find that spot. Or if I really can't find it, I'll just draw it in.
Yeah. Is that to know where the plane changes and stuff, or like yeah? Because that's the landmark, I guess.
Yeah.
You would have to paint it like show the plane change or something like.
Yeah. We have to know where well, landmarks, that's what they're good for helping with plane changes, knowing us where we are. I use them.
Yeah.
It's like a map. If I know where a corner is, then I know where the light's going to turn. And if we quickly add a tone to this, like because we have a shape, watch how quickly we can add. I haven't messed around with the silhouette that much. If you guys have time, I would mess around with the silhouette just a little bit more. Going into all the stuff we talked about, you can make it a bit more fleshy,
simple,
or you can make it feel more
like stretch and pinch and stuff.
complex. Yeah. So now, look how easy it is to add a tone. So the face is usually a little bit harder. It requires a little bit more knowledge of the planes of the head. But even then, see, this is the side plane. We'll be going over this again. when we start going into two value
Yeah, sweet.
breakdown.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Here's the eyeball. So I don't draw the eyes. That's the trick to drawing eyes, is to not draw it. So basically, if you guys want to draw eyes on a figure, most of the times, especially if you're trying to go for likeness, you draw everything around the eye and it forms the eye. That's how painters do it. It makes it so much easier. Because the eye is a very minor, it is a small detail. And one of the big mistakes is we spend so much time on the eye and we don't focus on the rest of the face. And I think I mentioned this before, like a lot of the classes are kind of, some of the stuff is running together, but if you design a house, right? If you're building a house, if you draw the eyes first, it's like making the windows first. And so now when
Yeah, it's like
building
it's like a small detail.
yeah, and then if you build the house, you're gonna have to build the whole house around that window, which is really hard. Whereas if you build the house first, like the frame and everything first, yeah, don't draw the eyes first. I mean, unless you're like, I don't know, some people can't do that. Like, there's an artist I mentioned before, Tim Gula, he can start with a fingernail. But like I said, for the rest of us mortals, don't do that. Or if you can do that, awesome. But you can't, like, it's making it harder for yourself by doing it that way. Yeah, don't draw any features first. Just keep it simple. Just, work big to small. It'll make your life so much easier. So I'm just blocking in the light and dark pattern. But one of the things I'm going to be doing, or the ideas I'll be implementing, is that thing we talked about drapery before, but this is not really drapery. I can see the overall light and dark pattern is just giving me a side plane right away. It's ignoring all of the little wobbles.
Yeah, right.
I can add that stuff later.
So this is kind of like
And you'll
the simplified version first, kind of like the start of the lay-in where we ignore the bumps and then add the bumps in after.
Yeah. Because you don't want to lose that bigger connection. Steve Houston talks about it. He just calls them wobbles. It's like, oh, I just need something here, wobble. It's not really a anatomical detail or anything. It's just a wobble.
Yeah, composition.
Get rid of these composition, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, as in, yeah, he kind of alters it so much. Yeah, just for the painting, like just he just, I don't know, like he adds it in for the rhythm or like whatever it is. Yeah.
Well, wobbles are they're very handy for showing corners, for just adding a little extra, because this is boring.
Yeah.
So we do that. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm just basically drawing the big overall form. And then here, I'm just going to repeat this. Meaning I'm just going to repeat this shape. And, we do have to understand simple ideas like, his crotch is casting a dark pattern over his leg. The leg is coming forward like this, so I'm going to design that cast pattern to wrap around. And then just to keep things simple, I'm going to redraw the outside leg shape again on the inside. And I'm going to add a wobble here
Wait,
to
you
make it
do
look fancier.
is that a common thing where you take the outside shape and then use it as a shadow shape as like a simple read or something? I don't know if
Yeah,
it's a
it is.
simple read.
It's a
Yeah.
simple. It's a simple thing, but it's actually how it works.
Right. Okay.
Because, you know, we are technically drawing a box and cylinder. Boxes and cylinders. And, you know, a cylinder, what does a cylinder's shape look like on the inside? It just mimics whatever's on the outside, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I can see that now. Yeah. Yeah.
If a shape bulges like this on a cylinder or a box, it bulges on the inside as well. So that's all.
Yeah.
That's why this is it's very effective, because what we're drawing is actually, you know, a cylinder or a box. It just looks more complex because, you know, there's muscles and stuff, or it has all these organic little smaller shapes that are kind of, you know, intimidating us. But truth is, it's really just like a box.
Yeah.
Something is either boxy or it's round.
And
Cast.
William also asked in the chat like he missed the wobble. As in
You missed the wobble.
yeah,
Oh,
as in like he doesn't know what I'm assuming. Let's see. So I'm so sorry, but what is wobble? Like little strokes? I guess
no.
yeah.
Wobble. That's a wobble. This is straight. This is a wobble. You know, it's like a line, a wobbly line.
Makes sense, William?
Yeah, it's not uh, anything deeper than that. It's really just a wobbly line or a wobbly mark. So if you guys ever see a Riley, someone who does the Riley method, they do this, and you see all the tonal stuff, all the rendering. The rendering is usually done when the model goes on break.
Right.
So while the model's on the stand, they're plotting all this stuff out, and then once the model goes on break, you know, they just fill it. Basically, when you guys render, this, if you think about it this way, all of you can do an amazing job coloring a coloring book,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Or it should be fairly easy for us to do that. So all we're doing when we draw, when we render, is in the beginning stages, it helps if we're treating it like we're setting up a coloring book that we're going to be coloring later.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So the more, it's kind of like, just like the lay-in, the more things we leave ambiguous, the harder it's going to be later on. So, you know, if we design a really nice coloring book for ourselves, then when the model goes off stage, or, you know, when you're rendering out of your head, or you're painting a character or something, the better job we did spending time designing that coloring book, the easier time we have rendering. Here, I don't have to do anything. I just go in and fill all this in. So here's our two-tone value. We'll explain this a little bit more detail later.
Yep.
In the term. But yeah, all I'm doing is just filling this in.
It's like magic.
Yeah, this is really cool, right? It's like in the beginning, this is where your drawing goes from 2D to 3D, like almost instantly. Even if you look, like I mentioned Craig Bowens before, this is what he's doing in the beginning a lot of times, where you put down a flat color or your local colors, and then you separate your light and your dark pattern, and then from there it's just like, okay, well,
Right. I didn't know that. Yeah, okay.
a lot of artists work this way. It makes sense. It's easy to classify
Yeah,
Um,
sure. Yeah.
whatever it is they're doing. It'll be dark here, so let's just fill this in as well. So yeah, so 20 figures this week. Don't do this. I'm just showing you, how quickly you can start adding tone. Because we have a finished shape, it's very easy. So remember, focus on stage 1, modify it, then go to stage 2, modify it, then go to stage 3 and modify it.
Cool. Makes sense. Everyone in chat understand? All good?
Yeah, and also remember, don't be afraid to, if you guys like do the lay-in and you guys like, you notice that something is wrong after, just redraw it, and then you can count that as your third, whichever figure. Just count that as another figure. Like I said, I'd rather you guys spend more time and get things correct, than just kind of rush to get all 20 done.
Yeah, awesome. Makes sense.
I know, certain students just need more time to do one. So,
Yeah.
all right, guys.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
So,
Yep.
all right.
Cheers.
See you guys next week.
Yep. See you next week. And yeah, I'll let Simon know about about Zoom and stuff, and like I'll also let him know about the Google Drive, and yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Duncan. All right, see you next week.
Yep. See you next week.
Thanks, Duncan.
See ya. Okay. Very good. Sure.